Well, we've just passed the halfway mark in this month-long emphasis on legacy. We've looked at spiritual legacy. We've looked at our relational legacy. Today, we're going to be looking at financial legacy. And so I have with me Sam Moneyhunt, our church administrator, and Joel Harder, our pastor to young adults, to help me talk through and think through this whole idea about financial legacy. I think it's true when people think of legacy or inheritance, they quickly jump to...
We got to restart. We're just seeing a blank screen. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Now it's back up.
We in 10 seconds? Are you ready for us? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Well, we've just passed the halfway mark in this month-long emphasis on legacy. We spent some time looking at relational legacy as well as spiritual legacy, and today we're going to look at financial legacy. And so I have with us Sam Moneyhunt, our church administrator, and Joel Harder, our pastor to young adults. I think it's safe to say when people think of the word legacy or inheritance, they quickly jump to the stuff. You know, what am I going to get left with? What is grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad? What are they leaving me, or what are they not leaving me? In fact, I joke with my kids is that we're trying to leave you a spiritual legacy because Lord knows we're not leaving you much of a financial one. But when we think about finances, we do have a responsibility to be good stewards, to leave a financial legacy. And so, Sam, the verses that we are going to be studying this week talk about not storing up treasures here on earth, but storing them up in heaven in Matthew 6. But for you, what comes to mind when you think about leaving a financial legacy for your children or for those around you?
Well, Brian, we work hard to establish a financial legacy for our families. It's pretty much traditional for us in this country. We educate our children about how to spend money, how to save money. We try to set them up in life as best we can financially. So that's something that is a priority. But we also, that translates over to our church. And one of the things that I've been taught is that the buildings that are here, the programs that are here, my family and I have been able to inherit that because of the work that other people who have come before us have done, sacrifices they've made financially. So they've set up their financial legacy, and we've been able to benefit from that. It's so important then that we continue that on. And we do the same thing for those who will come behind us. So it's important for us to be able to commit our funds to the church, be good stewards so that the church can continue to thrive, and that those that come behind us then will inherit the same types of things, only better, that we inherited.
It's a really good point because, of course, the financial decisions we make are leaving a legacy, whether good or bad, if we're wise with our finances or unwise with our finances for future generations. Of course, Joel, in Northern Virginia, we are kind of termed a difficult place to live financially. I mean, housing is pretty expensive. There are other things that are expensive. And we're also into a culture that kind of can be materialistically driven, whether it's a commercial that says you deserve a break today, to whether it's feeling like we should pamper ourselves, we're worthy of it, we need to do something just for us. Do you agree with those types of statements, that we should be out there just totally pampering ourselves?
Well, speaking as a transplanted Central Texan, there is a bit of a sticker shock when you move to Northern Virginia. It's an interesting question because we just know innately in our spirit that there's a line somewhere that we can cross when it comes to spending on ourselves and whether or not we're just entering into a materialistic worldview. But I also think that it's right and good to enjoy the things that we're blessed with. In Ecclesiastes, the author there writes that as God has blessed a man with wealth and also given him the ability to eat of it or partake of it, then it is right for him to enjoy the fruit of his labor and through the fruit of his harvest. And so it is right to enjoy the fruit of our labor, sure. And especially in this area as a young adult in the early stages of career, and how much and how busy we are, and just getting on the metro and 12 and 13-hour days, and you just living for the weekend for a break, that I would say it's absolutely right that when you have the opportunity to take a break and to get out of town, go on a trip, or ladies, go pamper yourself for a day. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. But the trick is to recognize and realize that it is God who's blessed us with our wealth, and that we have a responsibility to steward that and to do something with it. And so trust your spirit and trust what the Lord is speaking to you. Enjoy the fruit of your work, yes, but keep in mind that it's all God's, and you may have crossed the line here, and you need to pull back because God has other things for you to do with that wealth.
That's a great point, and I think striking that balance is so important. I did hear an interesting thing on the other end of the spectrum. Back in the 1950s, 60s, the average house size was a lot smaller than it is today, maybe 1,500 square feet, and yet families were bigger, and now we actually live in bigger houses with smaller families. And not only that, in the 1950s, 60s, there was no such thing as the self-storage business. And that's a business now that earns over $1 billion a year. So we have bigger homes, smaller families, and still not enough room to keep all the stuff that we have to go rent lockers to put all that stuff in. Yeah. And so it does bring up some questions about, are we being good stewards? Sam, you are a person who thinks about stewardship quite frequently, I know, because as our church administrator, you look at the finances of our church more than anyone on staff and more than anyone in our church. And I know part of what you want to be is to make sure not only we are bringing in necessary funds to do the ministry that God's called us to do, but you're really good at making sure we are spending wisely, because that's the other part of stewardship. What type of assurances can you give to our people that when they give sacrificially, that the church is making wise decisions with the funds that they give?
Right. I think any sacrificial gift it's painful. That's why they call it sacrificial. But it's also very rewarding. And I think as being good stewards and being obedient to God and giving of our tithes, it's important. It's equally as important, as you said, for the church to be good stewards in using that money. Many things that we do here, supporting missions around the world, supporting missions in the United States, in the state of Virginia. We have many programs that support churches in this area, a lot of benevolence programs that help not only members of our church, but people in our community. We do the ESL, we have Vacation Bible School, we do Fall Festival, things like that for the children. And there's just all the discipleship that goes in to the church, building up families, strengthening marriages, encouraging people when they need to be encouraged, and teaching our children, the true meaning of God's word and what they need to be doing and committing their lives to God. So there's just so many things that we do with the funds that we are obedient to God to give to His church here on earth. And so I think we do a very good job, and I think we do things to give God the glory and the honor.
That's great. Joel, we are, I think, pretty blessed in our community, in this church specifically, that we're in a relatively affluent church. And I mean that in that I don't think very many of our church members have to worry and stress about, do they have enough money for dinner tonight or breakfast tomorrow morning. And with that comes some responsibility to give wisely, as Sam was just mentioning. And of course, a lot of people have gotten to that point financially because it has been hard work. It's been those 13-hour days. It's been doing your master's degree and post-master's degree type work. And so how do we balance kind of being successful financially and then also giving generously? Can we do both?
Well, I don't think it's an either or. I think it's, biblically speaking, I don't think we're being successful financially if we're not giving generously. I think one presupposes the other. Again, I just go back to the importance of us individually as Christians and corporately as a body of believers and as family units and then as a full church, really coming to understand that all of our wealth and all of our resources and all of the things that we have been given are given to us by the Lord, and they are ultimately His, and they are ours to steward. It's really alarming to read what's happening in the younger generations when it comes to stewardship. And I'm on the very front end of the millennial generation, I just discovered. So that's cool. I'm younger than I thought I was. But the millennial generation, there's all these reports back and forth of the giving across the generations and tithing. And we really need to understand and teach and raise up all the generations of our church to understand and look at all of our wealth. And in the Bible, wealth is not just financial resources. Wealth has a wealth of meaning. What is our wealth? It's all God's, and we have the opportunity and responsibility to steward it. And so, ultimately, to be successful financially means to be prudent and wise in how we spend our own money and to give sacrificially.
That's a great point. Teachers and leaders, this week, as we're thinking about building that financial legacy, I just want to encourage you because, of course, this is a subject that can be delicate with some people. In the Old Testament, of course, we know we're to tithe, and in the New Testament, it talks about giving sacrificially, and we've kind of joked before, well, which one is it? What are you supposed to do? And so keep in mind that there'll be people in your class that aren't tithing. There'll be people who maybe are working towards that, and that's okay. Maybe this year they're given 4%, and just a gentle encouragement to move up to maybe 5% could be something. There's other people, quite frankly, that give 10%, and that's not sacrificial at all. That barely makes an impact in them, and maybe they should really prayerfully consider giving more. As you prepare this week, I would just ask you to pray about what are you giving financially and of your resources to the work of the Lord, because we as leaders need to set that example. And so as you teach this week, I just pray the Holy Spirit will convict you and encourage you. We know you give a lot of time and energy in teaching, and we just thank you for what you do. Teach well. Have a great lesson.